Hi everyone, welcome back. We've gotten to the end of our chair modeling lesson, the last video. We want to take a look at some of the sculpting tools we used when modeling the chair during the process of getting that single seater and the three-seater chair. We made references to some of these, and I think we used the push and pull tool to move the model back and forth. Now let's take a look at how some of these sculpting tools work. I'm going to make a plane on a viewport. And in here, I'll make the subdivisions to be like 500 subdivisions. Hit enter. Of course, to give me a warning, maybe this is just too much, it's very large, I'll just say yes, don't ask again. So now I have a plane with about 500 subdivisions in width and height, in width and breadth rather. Let me turn off the grid so we'll see what we'll do. Now we use this to know how some of these things here work, these tools. The first one here is the Sculpt tool, and it's used to just sculpt on surfaces. All right, it builds up the surface of our model. If I click on this, I have to click on your model. All right, then you see a round circle around your brush. As you can see, there's a circle there. That's your brush size. There's a dot in between at the center of it. That is the center of your brush. If you hold down B for boy key, if you hold down your keyboard, click drag, you'll be changing the brush size. Okay, if I drag out, I'll change the brush size. If I drag in, I'll reduce the brush size. If you hold down M for mango, you'll be changing the strength of the brush. Okay, so M, you see a line that goes up and down, that will change the brush strength. Now, what does it mean to change brush size and brush strength? First of all, let's sculpt on this. If I change the brush size and draw my keyboard, you see I'm pulling vertices up. All right, that's pull according to the size of my brush. All right, the brush has a fall off. If you double click on this, you see that there's a fall off to the brush. All right, in essence, if you click and drag, you see the side of your brush that it takes a profile which is similar to this. This is the center of your brush, this is the end or the edge of your brush. Okay, so that affects the way your brush pulls vertices or geometries up. You could change this if you want. Okay, you could modify your brush fall off profile. You could say volume, you could say surface, you could even say surfaces on volume at the same time. Now you could choose some of these presets here, and that will modify how a brush behave. Okay, the sculpting. All right, so let me undo all of this so that my system tends to be dragging. If I click on this, see that I'm pulling up to the surface here, and that takes a different profile, something that looks close to this. So you could choose any of these the way you want, and this one basically lifts the whole thing in the same uniform pattern. All right, now the center of your brush holds the highest strength or highest magnitude, and that magnitude drops as you move towards the end of your brush. All right, that's how this profile should be seen. So I'm going to go back to the default one here, and we use this to explain other brushes we have there. We have the stylus. If you are using a Wacom tablet or an XP pen tablet, you can use the stylus to basically control how the brush work. From the pen pressure, you could change the magnitude or the strength of your push and pull, or basically all the sculpting tools change the strength with your pen pressure on the Wacom tablet or the XP pen. Then we have stamps. We'll go over this later. We have display, how this shows. Okay, now let's go to the brush roulette itself. This changes the size, as I've explained. Use the brush size, the B key. If we pull this up, it gets too big, you can see it, you have to zoom out. If we pull this down, it gets very tiny. All right, this can be measured in word unit or pixel unit. Okay, now the strength, which is the M, like I explained earlier, if you pull this up, okay, and drag, it pulls up a lot. Okay, if you pull this down and drag, doesn't do much. So that changes the strength. The hotkey for this is B, the hotkey for this is M. Okay, you could invert the way that happens. All right, which basically means if you hold down Alt, or rather, we invert the sculpting of our brush here. So let's turn that back off. Then for most brush tool, you could turn on symmetry, okay, in whatever axis you want to turn it on. I prefer to use my world axis, and if you look at this is X. All right, so that means this side is positive X, this side is negative X. If I turn on symmetry toward X, anything I do to this side affects the other side. Okay, if I turn this toward Y, my Y is in this direction, or basically it's facing up, so doesn't it should affect what should happen at the top there. All right, word Z is using that axis, that direction, so this side should affect the other side here. So this is just symmetry. It's a feature you could turn on most tools, not just the sculpting tools. Then we could change the build up strength like you have there. Okay, let me turn this back to word X. Let me turn that off entirely. Okay, and that build up strength will basically keep building up here. All right, now we want to go back and see other tools. That for the sculpting tool, some of these rollouts or these settings are similar across all the tools down here. So but let's quickly see what they do. I'm going to undo all of this so it doesn't take much of my RAM space, my GPU space. Now that's sculpting. This is for smoothing, to smooth out the surface out. If I do a, let's say I increase that, change my symmetry, turn it off, and let's reset this tool. I'm going to pull down the size, pull down the strength, pull down the size again, pull down the size. Aha, so now it was cut by default this way. You could smoothen out how this appears. All right, now one way to show that or make that very elaborate is if I throw in some form of stamp. I'll go over this in a while, but let's throw in a stamp here just to show us what we could do with the sculpt. So the smooth brush, so I'm going to drop something here. Okay, now I have a surface like this. All right, it's not really that smooth, it's rough. If I use my smooth brush and click on it, it will tend to smooth the vertices and the faces out. All right, so I no longer have those sharp protruding faces you have or you saw earlier. Okay, that's a smooth brush. The hotkey for getting your smooth brush is to hold and shift. For example, if I'm using my move or my pull brush to pull out surfaces and I want to quickly change that to my smooth, I don't need to click on smooth back again. I could leave my brush selected to pull or grab and use that, hold and shift, click and drag to smoothen out that surface out. So that's a quick way to get to your smooth, okay, brush if you have other brush selected. Next one here is to relax. This will basically relax the vertices on the surface. Okay, if I click on this and click here, drag, won't really notice any difference. But if you have a surface that has an even vertex distribution, we use the relax tool to relax the vertex distribution you have on that. Okay, and the best way to get to this is to hold down shift control. Okay, see my brush color changes to orange. That selects the relax tool. Okay, and shift only selects the smoothing brush. Now the grab here, as we've explained earlier, we could grab an object, pull up, pull down, pull up and pull down and smoothing as we want. Okay, So that can be used to drag surfaces. If you notice, we use the grab tool over and over again to change the flow of our model when we are modeling the backrest of the chair. So that's the grab tool you have there. This other one here is the pinch. Okay, this will pinch out the surface. But let's create something interesting in a while so that we will see how these tools work in a bit surfaces. So I'm going to undo all of these and go back to start from the most intricate ones here. I'm going to give this guy some color. I'm going to give this guy a blend, and let's use one of those clay. All right, so we have this. Okay, now let's create a stamp. This is used to create a stamp on our surface. If I click on this and open the stamp roller, as you see, I have a stamp print here. We could change the stamp print to anyone we want. There are a lot of stamp prints that comes with my installation. All right, so we could grab that, and this is good. If you just click, this distributes stamps randomly. This one does the same thing, but distribute the stamps evenly. All right, basically repeat that this stamp here over as we click and drag, but this one distribute them unevenly or basically randomly. So if I click and drag, see it drops it randomly as I drag over the surfaces here. All right, maybe my brush strength is too much. Could put that down, click and drag. All right, now if I click once, it drops that. I click and drag once, it drops just the stamp on the surface. So this will look like exactly the stamp we have here. Right, while the next button here, which is your even distribution of your stamp. So if I have a stamp, I just made one here, this will just drop a stamp if you just click and drag with this tool. All right, but if you click and drag, it drops stamps in a random pattern actually. Okay, now you could decide to turn off the wireframe that you're seeing here from wireframe display, turn off show. So show the wireframe. That will help our GPU. So that's this. Okay, if I increase the brush strength up and drop one again, see it drops that over. Okay, now because we have this, we could basically explain what relax to or smooth to does, which you've done earlier. All right, now this is our grab, we've explained this, and this is our sharpen or pinch. Okay, so this will basically pinch surfaces together. Let's say for instance we make let me use a knife tool to just cut something up here deep. Just cut something up here. All right, I will come back to the knife tool. Now pinch, we pull these two ridges together with pinch here, which is this one here. If I click on this and I click on that, it pulls them together. Okay, if I keep dragging it, see how it's pulling them together. Let me show my wireframe so you'll see the effect of that. You see that? Okay, so that's the work of pinch. Right, grabs them together there. Okay, next one here is foamy. You basically build up some faces on top of our object. All right, so have this, lift them up much. If we grab this, it lifts them up a lot, and that's the way that one behaves for me. All right, we could put down the strength. Don't drag object up too much, and we have this. Okay, sometimes you can't just turn around and grab object up because you want to put them up from the way they are facing you. So I think the foamy comes in handy when it gets to that. Now we've seen the stamp, random distribution. This is uniform distribution of stamp. If you click and drag, it drops that uniformly going straight. Okay, and then the random, drop it both left and right. All right, and that's that. If you have those both stamp on, we could change how many times they drop off the stamp. Okay, and that's how this and this behave. The next one here is to imprint. Okay, or clone tool. Basically, this will imprint a particular stamp on an object. Okay, so if I click on this and click drag, it drops that once. Okay, that's imprint. You could click and drag to see what you're about to imprint on a surface and drop it, and that drops that imprint on your surface. You could use that to create tattoos or marks or so on an object. Okay, when modeling things. Okay, that's the imprint. Yeah, the next one is clay build up. Now your clay builder works more like the way you have it in ZBrush. It builds up your surface. If I click on this and click drag, let me pull this guy up and pull down my brush and click drag. You see, I'm building up a surface. I'm not. It's different from sculpting. Okay, this is sculpt. All right. Why this is clay build up. Okay, so you're building up a clay here, more like the way you have it in ZBrush. All right. Then here is your scrape tool. Next one is the scrape tool. We want to remove some part of clay, if I use that term, of our object. Just scraping some part of that off. That's our scrape tool. Okay. The next one here is amplify, or to fill rather. This is amplify. This is to fill. Okay. If we have let's say we have this. Okay. I want to fill that up. Fill the places up. We just need to click and drag on it to fill it up. Okay, so that's our fill tool. Let's cut some knife edge around this again and use our fill to basically fill that hole. Okay, go fill that up and that gets filled up. Okay, remember if you hold down shift, you could smoothen out objects. Okay, or a particular pattern of. If you hold down shift control, we have the relaxed vertices. Okay, in essence, all these are relaxed. Okay, so we won't actually see a change when we do that, but we'll see that the vertices they move a little bit. So that is the scrape, and that is the fill. This is the knife which we use to basically cut shapes in this. All right, we've seen this. Then we have the smear. Okay, now this smear will basically move vertices, push them along a particular axis. If I pull up the brush size and move, see I'm moving around what I've done to the right. Okay, that's smear. Okay, that's what smear does. If I do that again on this, you see that I could move this all over there, and I could move this all over here. Okay, it works differently from grab or move. You see the smear tool. So the next one here is bulge. If you basically make a lump on a surface, I click on this. Let's pull down the brush size. See, make a lump there. All right. Make another lump. Okay, on our surface. Okay, so that's how that works. Lump. Now this is amplify. Let's say we smoothen out this a little bit. Okay, or let's say we turn on smooth on this. Okay, and we want to get back that detail. We use amplify to click and drag. This selected, click and drag. Okay, let's increase the strength of amplify. Click and drag to basically amplify that detail back for us. Okay, after the smoothing has taken them away. So that is amplify. All right, we'll apply it to anything that will amplify the detail that we have on an object. Okay, after sculpting. The last one here is freeze. We could mark an area that we don't want the sculpting to affect. Let's say I mark this particular area, paint on this, shows in blue. Now if I use any of these tool on this area, nothing happens. In essence, let's say I want to use the sculpt on this area. Immediately I get to this, nothing happens because this area is frozen. Okay, and that is how freeze works. Anything you do on this doesn't affect this area. So you could hold some parts of your geometry up so that it doesn't affect other part and sculpt on it. One way you always use or practice or play with these tools is you could delete this, go over to Windows, look for your content browser. Okay, could play with some, let's use some biped, let's use head model. I'll double click that, drops one of my viewport, and we have this. Okay, now with this we could just assign this a material, so you could see it clearly on our viewport. Let's assign it a clay material. Okay, then we could even subdivide this before we start sculpting. All the tools we have here or seen here, we use that over here. Okay, but since this is low res, some things might work well, some things might need more subdivisions. Like my Sculpt 2 might not really do much here because there are less subdivisions here or less faces to play with. Okay, but if you want to sculpt some details on a model, we need more subdivisions, and we've seen this before. Just need to click on smooth. If you have smooth, you could increase the subdivision to like see 3 subdivisions there. That's if your system doesn't crash on you. And if you have these, so now we have a high dense model, and we have those subdivisions there. You could start sculpting on this if you have a strong graphic card, it has a lot of GPU size. You could start on this, or we could put that back to 2 subdivisions so that it becomes easy for us to pan around. So with this, we could could get the shape of what you want first. Let's say you're sculpting. This is not a sculpting class anyway. Could get the shape of what you want. We turn on symmetry, what X, okay, and get the shape of the face you want, and smoothing that out. Move that over here. Get your jaw, move that in, your big jaw, and can push the jaw out. In this case, let's say for instance we want to push the jaw out. I could grab my foamy brush here, use my brush size, and pull the jaw out a little bit here. Okay, yeah, I'm smoothing that out, pull the jaw out. Okay, here, then of course you could even use the clay build up to build up things around. Okay, and smoothing that out. Okay, then of course so with your clay build up, you can create a lip for that. You can even use your knife to just make a line there. You see, we need a lot of subdivisions here. Okay, and use your clay build up to make that lip, but I'll have to subdivide this. Now if I do, my Maya might crash on me, so that is where softwares like ZBrush comes into play. They have the capacity to handle lots of polygon subdivisions without dragging the GPU down or dragging your system down. All right, so if we could do more and more with this, but if you subdivide this one more time, our system will start to drag. Okay, so for an in-depth sculpting class, we look for one of those training on ZBrush to sculpt model. But the point here is, if after sculpting with ZBrush or so, and you bring them back into Maya, you have to retopologize. Basically, you have to change the way the polygons or the edges of your object flow. Okay, have a nice edge topology that is required for skinning and rigging or other processes down the production line. But you get the point. Seeing some of the sculpting tools here and how they work. So I will say thanks for now. See you in another class.